Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Reading Between the Headlines. I'm Asaf Nisim. Let's do the thing. Headline number 1. Van Dijk wins PFA Player of the Year award. When I think of Virgil van Dijk, I think, now that's a PFA potty. That is the epitome of potty face. No, but seriously, I mentioned this last week when I was discussing how Liverpool had officially convinced the Daily Mail that they weren't going to crumble under the pressure like Rodgers' side did. This isn't revelatory to anyone that's been watching this team play since the beginning of the season. It's also clear that both Van Dijk and Alisson were crucial factors in overhauling Liverpool's defensive capacity. It's certainly noteworthy that he's the first defender to win it since 2005 when John Terry won it with Chelsea. I'm not sure if it's the case, but I think that generally the winners of this award are pretty uncontroversial. Yeah, like people may disagree. They may say, well, I think Y should have won it, but it makes sense that X did. Well, maybe Conte should have won it twice in a row, 15-16, 16-17, but Mahrez made sense at the time. It's actually kind of interesting given that people never really agree on these sorts of things. But it seems that the consensus of players actually on the pitch is quite widely palatable. So before we get to headline number 2, I wanted to do something a little bit different this week. And since I overheard Lee Dixon talking about referee consistency, and I'm a former referee, I figured why not talk a little bit about referee consistency. Now, I totally agree. Referee consistency is extremely important, but it is abundantly clear that Lee Dixon is not a referee. Never has been. I cannot tell you how often these commentators, sometimes players that have been playing the game at a professional level for so many years, display their complete ignorance of the laws of the game and how they're implemented. It's hard to expect people to know the nuance of any skill set or profession. I'm sure that I've made statements that many professional players would just roll their eyes at. Lee Dixon was talking about the difficulty of referees to all be on the same page from game to game, competition to competition, etc., etc. At one point he said something to the effect of, sometimes a referee's decisions aren't even consistent within the same match, as if that's some sort of fair condemnation of a referee's performance. In short, it's not. That's not how referees are taught to be consistent. Consistency applies between the two teams, and often can change within the game. Meaning a game starts and it's a little aggressive, but the players are respecting a certain boundary line that's tolerable for the referee. You may not see the referee give a foul for a tackle of a certain profile in the first half. Second half rolls around and players are really pushing the boundaries. There's a lot of trash talking going on off the ball. And in my experience as a referee, I always told my assistants to listen for the trash talking off the ball, because that is often where all the little spats start and they grow into these inflamed altercations. So there's more tension on the pitch. And maybe the flow of the game is so fast and there's a growing disregard for safety across the board. This is a recipe for disaster. Maybe the ref will decide that for a certain period of the game, it's time to start calling more, settle things down, slow things down even. Look, there are thousands of instances of contact in every single match that are technically fouls. If a referee called every single one of them, we'd look a lot more like the NFL. We'd be starting and stopping every 3 seconds, and nobody would be happy. Furthermore, the concept of consistency for a referee is not about eliminating objectivity, calling every foul by the same monolithic standards in every single match, every single referee. It's just not possible, nor is it preferable. The point is to be consistent between opposing sides in any given period. And fair enough, not every referee gets that completely right. But I'm hard-pressed to believe that ever has anything to do with favoritism. Rather, that we're all human beings and we all make mistakes, including referees. Players make mistakes every single game, and the double standard drives me wild. We have to accept these things and do the best with what we've got. And this leads us to headline number 2. He's not the reason we're 6th. Solskjaer leaps to the defense of De Gea despite another high-profile error. Again, perfect example. We're dealing with people. People make mistakes. People have good runs and bad runs. It's important to have some restraint if you want to honestly criticize players. If you don't and you just want to yell, then have at it. A lot of people do. I've heard a lot of yelling in my time as a referee. But it doesn't really reflect the reality of De Gea, does it? It should be obvious that you can't have a player who is widely regarded as the best goalkeeper in the world for some time, and then all of a sudden, he's useless. Does that really make sense? And it's just not true. The stats don't show it to be true. His performances don't show it to be true. Who the heck knows what's going on with De Gea right now? You have to admit that he's definitely had some serious slip-ups, but I mean, his quality is still visible for all to see. And the guy's not like some young player anymore. He's 28 years old. It's not like, we're seeing something now that, we haven't seen before, or we're seeing something now and we don't know what we're going to get in the future. Solskjaer really did say it honestly and the best I've seen it, which is De Gea is not the reason we're in 6th. For me, he's just another individual who's going through a difficult period and lacking confidence. That's where it ends. Which brings me to my quick assessment of the United-Chelsea fixture. Firstly, I think I was at least partially wrong when I was looking at the matchup and thinking that it would come down to tactical victories. Would United be able to hold off Chelsea's attack and cope with the possession dominance long enough for Rashford to hit them on the counterattack? I felt that Chelsea would lose if they didn't manage to put up one of their better performances. And look, they haven't been consistent, that's for sure. And given the current open expansiveness of the Chelsea system at the moment, it just doesn't seem like they could reliably stymie that sort of counter-attacking prowess. But to be fair, I don't think there are a lot of teams that could stop Rashford. Well, the game came about and Chelsea started Rudiger, so this was a huge boost to Chelsea's prospects of doing just that. Rudiger's really strong and athletic, and he's been pretty good at this sort of thing. Just so happens that both he and Rashford went off injured due to previous injuries that they both had in exactly the 65th minute. But the game, for me, wasn't about that at all. It was about confidence from the very outset. And every Chelsea fan has to concede that United came out with the lion's share of it. Chelsea looked quite tame. But end of the day, it was an awful match to watch. Both teams looked disjointed and loose. United got the goal early on. It was a pretty nice team goal for what it's worth. And Chelsea got the equalizer through Alonso and, of course, the big De Gea gaffe right before halftime. But the game stunk really, and it was overly physical in a way that just wasn't enjoyable. Then the 72nd minute rolls around and I thought, perfect! Just what this game needs. Marcos Rojo. As if his last name wasn't indicative of the card he so often deserves. A player whose own teammates have essentially described him as a hammer looking for a nail. His tackle on Willian in the 80th, for me, was a red card. But fair play to Atkins for giving him a yellow. It happened kind of fast, and he'd already been letting the boys play all game, so I think given the circumstances, it was more along the lines of what Sarri and us referees might refer to as an orange card. Something between yellow and red, but, strong yellow maybe. If there was a strong yellow, maybe we'd give a strong yellow. In my opinion, the story of the game, in summation, was that United came out and pushed the envelope for maybe 20 to 30 minutes. Chelsea got the goal through Alonso against the run of play. Second half comes around, and it was basically facepalm inducing for fans across the board. If I had to announce the better team, I'd definitely go with United, but mainly for the first 20 to 30 minutes of the game. Not worth watching. Probably not worth even watching the highlights. So if you missed it, no worries. The flag was up. Headline number 3. Like father, like son. Suarez's youngest, Lautaro, mimics infamous Chiellini incident by hilariously biting striker's shoulder. Quickly wanted to touch on this because it's hilarious. Not much substance here, but look at this picture. I'm sure the child was like, yeah, Dad, remember that time or like 3 times you played The Walking Dead with your friends in the footballs? Remember that time you pretended that Chiellini's shoulder assaulted your teeth? Let's play! I hope this kid's got a good dentist because honestly, he's starting out early and the bite life takes its toll. Headline number 4. 10-man Arsenal wilt under pressure as Vardy's double helps Leicester to victory that leaves Emery & Co.'s chances of making the top 4 hanging by a thread. Look, there's no doubt that Arsenal are in a very difficult moment right now. And again, just as last week wasn't down to some single variable like Emery's tinkering or lack of midfield depth, which may be an issue, this is a team like Leicester in a really good moment with players like Jamie Vardy, an unstoppable force, taking advantage of it. Yes, Emery made a lot of changes since the last match. Players who were injured were available for the first time. And the last team out did not have a good day. But really, I think we're going to see a lot more out of Leicester under Brendan Rodgers. I think a lot of people believe that he never really got it together with Liverpool after some great success with Swansea, but he truly is a quality manager. Maybe he just wasn't ready to sit at the helm of a club like Liverpool. Maybe he just rose through the ranks too quickly. But now he's involved in a project that not only Leicester fans are proud of, but every English football fan is astounded by. It seems that the club is doing everything right at the moment, and I believe that we're going to be talking more about them next season. Champions 2015-16, let's not forget. Headline number 5. 10 years ago, Howe's club were on the brink of dropping out of the league. Then Fletcher smashed home to start Bournemouth fairy tale. So Kieran Gill did a nice little piece for the Daily Mail on Bournemouth and their rise from the ashes. These stories are my favorite, and quite possibly the greatest aspect of the professional footballing system in England. So many opportunities for these rags to riches stories. From Jamie Vardy to Grant Holt to Southampton's back-to-back promotion to the Prem to Maurizio Sarri's own story, and many more in between. As a fan, you gotta love the stories of a grocery store clerk who's bagging eggs separately on Friday and on Saturday playing Manchester United in the League Cup. Well, here we have yet another great one. Gill describes the situation at Bournemouth before their resurgence. Bailiffs were gutting the club's shop of stock, and they had to manufacture a story about a leak to save themselves the embarrassment of explaining the empty shelves. When the training grounds were padlocked, players would relocate to a local park where they'd kick off every training session by scouring the pitch for dog poop and removing it. Eddie Howe was paying for equipment out of his pocket, and players were getting paid for the game afterwards directly through ticket sales. Sounds more like street performers divvying up whatever's in the bucket at the end of the day. Suffice to say, things were not going well for them. Howe, age 31, was coaching the U18s when the manager of the first team was sacked and he was given the job. Short of players one game, Howe named his assistant, retired defender Jason Tyndall, to the bench. Due to injuries, he had to feature, and he got the assist on the winning goal. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. There's actually a documentary on their rise entitled -17. And if you haven't already, go over to the Daily Mail and read Gill's article. Today, while the Cherries are comfortably out of the relegation zone, the results just haven't quite been there. But, we have to give them a little bit of slack. They've been torn up by injuries this season, and let's not forget, they're still playing at a stadium with a max capacity of about 11,400. They're still a work in progress if the aim is to be cemented into the Premier League. But having said that, they are in their 5th straight season, and I genuinely love watching them play. On Saturday, I saw the Prem schedule, and I was immediately drawn towards the Bournemouth-Southampton game. I saw the Crystal Palace-Everton fixture and decided maybe that was a better bet, so I went over there. I watched for like a few minutes and immediately decided to switch back over. It turned out to be the right decision. Ryan Fraser and Callum Wilson are just a couple of really exciting players at Bournemouth right now. There are many more, including Jordan Ibe, who actually has been struggling to get off the bench, but he's really exciting to watch. I truly hope that Eddie Howe continues to prove that he deserves to be on the shortlist for most influential managers in the game today. It's no wonder that when all the rumors were going on about Pochettino possibly being the next manager at United, Eddie Howe was on the shortlist to replace him. Headline number 6. Has Sarri done enough to keep his job at Chelsea? So it looks like I'm finally going to have to talk about this situation. I haven't exactly been shy about my opinion, but I haven't really elaborated, mainly because enough people were talking about it ad nauseum. My opinion is pretty straightforward. To what standard is Chelsea holding Maurizio Sarri if they sack him? Facts. More clubs have a lot of money, and the league, in turn, is the most competitive it's ever been. You're going to have to expect more surprises from clubs down the table. Chelsea are, dare I say it, in a transitional phase, one in which Sarri did not get a full, solid preseason. And Chelsea are still in pole position to clinch a Champions League spot on the table, not to mention a Europa League trophy, which brings with it Champions League auto-qualification. Pep, by the way, didn't win a single trophy and finished his first season with a total of 76 points. Pundits and supposed experts were saying the same thing about Pep that they're saying now about Sarri. His football doesn't work in this league. You need to sometimes sacrifice beauty for pragmatism, etc., etc. Other facts. The top 2 teams on the table, Manchester City and Liverpool, have had years to develop. It was never going to be something that Chelsea should be able to compete with, especially when trying to do something so complicated as completely overhaul the club's approach to footballing style, spirit, and culture. Fans said it repeatedly in the past. We want attacking football. Well, attacking football, the likes of which Pep employs, takes time. Surprise, surprise. Jurgen Klopp's actually taken 4 years to deliver 0 trophies, and that's not me ripping on Klopp. I like Klopp. I love Klopp. I want to see Klopp in the Premier League for the foreseeable future, and he deserves it. His team is playing intoxicating football. But Salah has less trophies than Jamie Vardy. So does Pochettino, by the way. Another manager I love, but I digress. If you're putting together a circus and you're looking to string together these various acts, and the acts are longer, more technical, more free-flowing, it takes longer to do, and the personnel have to be more cultivated, tweaked, and updated. It just does. The point is that we've seen it under Sarri at Chelsea. We've seen the beauty of attacking one-touch football and the dominance of possession. We've seen it against top sides, not just smaller clubs. And to me, that means that it's possible and doable under Sarri with the Blues. And the cool part is that while it's not the best that it could possibly be, it is effective when it happens. Let's not forget that when Chelsea were doing well at the start of the season, their performances were very discombobulated. The defensive phase was a disaster, and Sarri changed that. It's not perfect now, but it's also worth noting that he's getting the best we've ever seen out of David Luiz. Having said all that, I will admit that there is an increasingly frustrating aspect to Sarri's stewardship at Chelsea, and that comes in the form of Gonzalo Higuain. His performance against United was absolutely abysmal. It was difficult to watch. 0 effect on the game. He looked tired after 10-15 minutes, and he continued to make all the worst runs and never link up with anyone. He couldn't hold the ball up. His touches were just amateur. At one point, my best friend was like, maybe we should just take him off and play with 10. It was that bad. The fact that he stayed on for the full 90 minutes was probably only due to Rudiger having to come off and Chelsea only really needing a draw. Giroud definitely deserved the start, and I don't think there's much debating that his impact on the game is so much more significant. I will grant that it is possible all of this changes. He hasn't had much time, but most of us would rather see a player like Edin Dzeko in there, and all due respect, we'll be happy to see this loan spell come to a close. All in all, I think with regards to Sarri, what it comes down to is whether or not you believe he is the man that can bring that beautiful attacking football with any consistency. I suppose another position is that you don't care about beautiful attacking football, you just want to see results, and you don't care how it's done. But I don't think many of you feel that way. So at this point, If you don't at all think that it's possible, then you're just wrong. We've seen it. This isn't actually debatable. Chelsea can do it, even with this squad. Can they do it consistently? I couldn't tell you. But it should get easier with time to tweak players and oil it all together. Anything worth having in life takes time, effort, and pain. Thanks for watching today's episode of Reading Between the Headlines. If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe. If you have anything at all to add, you know where to do it. From myself and Little Broken Picard, live football and prosper.